Microsoft is going to talk about its vision for the future of Xbox at an event later this week. This coming as the gaming industry at large reported laid off more than 11,000 workers last year and another 6,000 already this year. For more on the gaming industry landscape, we're talking to LightShed Partners media and technology analyst Brandon Ross. Brandon, it is great to have you on the show. And I thought, Brandon, let's start out kind of a high level, Brandon, get your take on the gaming industry. During the pandemic, of course, so many people were at home. You saw this boom, of course, of interest in gaming, Brandon. Post-pandemic, as we sit here, Brandon, now in February 2024, give us your take on just the health of the gaming industry, Brandon. How healthy is it, and where's the growth right now in terms of the verticals and kind of subsectors?
Sure. You just referenced the pandemic, and there was an obvious pull forward in growth that occurred because everyone was at home, had nothing to do, and a great way to socialize and interact with others was by playing games. So you got a little bit of a pull forward there. Since that time, growth has been, pretty meager. I think if you look at the CAGR at a 20, it's low single digits of growth. So part of it has to do with the pandemic, but then there were actually other headwinds that hit the industry. A big one was actually in mobile games, where the IDFA changes by Apple happened, and it made it much harder for mobile publishers to acquire users and reactivate users. And I think the industry is still struggling with that.
Hey, Brandon, it's Julie here. So when we look at the number of layoffs this year, which is already trending, according to industry watchers, around 6,000. So at this pace, would actually surpass what we saw in 2023. So that seems to reflect some of these changing dynamics that you're talking about. A lot of other big tech industries have cut their way towards back into investors' good graces and back into efficiency. Is that going to work for the gaming industry?
Look, it never helps to cut when you kind of get into a situation when you start cutting and you're a content and creative focused industry where you might be, robbing from the future in order to make profitability strong now. However, if you look at the gaming industry now, it's really just it's pretty top heavy overall outside of the quote metaversy platforms. And I think you're seeing a lot of growth out of projects that were headcount come out of projects that probably weren't going to be that effective anyway. So I think just like the tech companies are, all of the game publishers, especially in a flat growth environment, are looking to take investment dollars away from the future.
And Brandon, we also, expect Microsoft to talk about its kind of vision of the future of Xbox later this week. Brandon, what are your thoughts? What do you expect we might hear from Microsoft?
Yeah, well, there's no secret that Microsoft has believed that we were going to move to more of a no console future at some point, which is very convenient for them if you look at the strengths of Microsoft. They have not been a hardware company really at all. Their strengths are in cloud, and they've built a lot of first-party publishing, and they've tried to leverage that growth through acquisition, whether it be Activision Blizzard or Bethesda, in order to help push their subscription service, Xbox Game Pass. Unfortunately, Game Pass is underperformed. It only has 30 million subscribers right now. And in terms of cloud connectivity to gaming, we're just not there yet. So all these first-party publishing assets that they need to make money off them. So a smart way to do that is to just open them up to Switch and open them up to PlayStation. And if in the future they want to take them back exclusive as new iterations of these franchises come, they can do that.
Do you think they're going to do that, Brandon? Do you think they're going to open them up? I mean, presumably that's probably not what this... do you think that's what this big announcement is?
It seems to be going that way, yes. There has been a bunch of leaks about different games that are coming that would have been Xbox exclusives that look like they're going to show up on PlayStation as well, including Indiana Jones and others. So I think that is one thing you're going to hear about. And then the rest is this continued push towards subscription and streaming. But that seems like a dated proposition to get to massive enough scale to really have impact on the way games are distributed.
So Nadella, Brandon, has made this big bet then really on the future of subscriptions and cloud gaming, but you're saying cloud gaming technically isn't really there yet. How long before it is there, Brandon? Is this a matter of quarters or years?
I don't know if it's a technical issue, at least in the United States, as much as it is an adoption issue, especially when we're, pretty early on a new console cycle. You saw, for whatever reason, Google went at it with Stadia, never really got much traction in cloud. xCloud hasn't had that much traction for Microsoft. So I think, at least in the US, it's an adoption issue, and the cloud solution just isn't that much better, or really not better at all, than a console solution. Now, in markets where people can't afford consoles and only play mobile games, then a cloud solution that could connect any screen to console quality gaming, to real AAA gaming, is something that's very interesting. But in those markets, you don't have the cloud infrastructure yet that you have in the United States.
Brandon, before we let you go, while we have you here, we got to ask you about the Disney Epic deal that was announced, the investment that was announced last week. I got to say, I ran it by my kids, one of whom was playing some Fortnite, but now he's back on the Roblox train. So he was kind of like not that excited about it. But what do you make of it?
Look, you just brought up Roblox. Roblox is still experiencing 20% engagement growth, 20% user growth, 20% bookings growth, even out of the pandemic, where the whole industry at large has flattened out. Younger generations like to hang out in 3D interactive worlds, whether that is in Roblox, which is much more UGC, or in Fortnite, which, as you know from your kids, is more of a shooter. I think that the ambition here is to use Disney's IP to approximate something that's closer to the behavior that you see in Roblox, or on the Fortnite 2.0, which is the more UGC type version of Fortnite, where there's tons and tons of different experiences, and they're not necessarily competitive, but could just be hanging out in digital space.
Brandon, it was so great to have you on the show today. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks. It was great to see you. Take care.